Thank you for tuning in to Love in Your Hands with Cynthia Clark, Soulmate Palmist, spiritual teacher, love coach, author, and speaker. We're sharing stories of love and connection and lessons learned along the way. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to ignite soulmate love fast using an innovative system to help you end loneliness and toxic relationships and elevate your vibrational energy to soulmate love and deeply compatible partners. Get started for free at loveinyourhands.com. And now here's your host, Cynthia Clark.
Hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Cynthia Clark, and I am your Soulmate Palmist and spiritual teacher. And I'm always excited to bring in topics of interest that help you to live life with more love, more passion, more purpose. Today is definitely going to be a terrific show. I'm excited to get into our topic. I am happy to bring in our guest, and I've actually spoken with her before, so you can go back and listen to our previous episode if you're interested. Her name is Christina Burruss, and she is the owner and founder of Aloha Ascension. She's Reiki Master Certified. She is a healer and educator offering in-person and distance healing sessions. Her approach is both spiritual and intuitive, helping clients to clear blockages and fears, identify their passions, and actualize their soul's purpose. She dedicates a significant portion of her life to helping others through one-on-one customized life coaching programs. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I feel like you and I are definitely kindred spirits. It's just so great to see somebody who's obviously so passionate about what they do and trying to help everybody in their own pathway, it's terrific. So.
Well, that's exactly how I feel about you. And I know it's, vibrational attraction. So I feel like we're soul sisters.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to start out the show with actually taking a quick look at your hands, and we can learn a little bit about you through the perspective of your hands. And I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to pull up your hands here. All right, so the first thing that I noticed about you was that you have an earthy hand. Okay, so you have short fingers and you've got a really square palm. Okay, so this is the element of earth. And earth is somebody who is very practical. And so I love how you're in the spiritual realm because you bring the practical from the spiritual. And you can put it into a way that actually helps people move forward. So that's a nice element of earth. You're connected to nature, usually when you've got this type of earthy hand, and you can tap into the elements of nature. The next thing I noticed about you is you've got a strong, what we call Jupiter finger, which is your index finger. And the way we can tell that is that this finger is longer than your ring finger. Okay, so fingers are always measured relative to each other. And so that's what we're noticing. What I'm noticing is that this is your strong finger. This is also my strong finger too, by the way. So Jupiter represents vision and also ideals. You're somebody who's not afraid to look at yourself, to self-analyze, which I think is actually a really good thing to do, because if you're not willing to self-analyze, how can you help other people self-analyze, right? I think that's important. So this archetype is known as, so we take this combination, Earth and Jupiter. This is the Emperor archetype. And the Emperor does very well working for oneself. Okay, so it makes sense to me that you would want to have your own business and your own company because you are an emperor. You need to be in charge of your own empire. And you have a strong sense of leadership skills that comes through this archetype. when I was getting my my first book written, Stories in Your Hands, my editor was actually had a similar hand to you. And she was also an emperor archetype. And she was so good with helping me take my, you know, scattered thoughts, basically, my scattered thoughts of my book. And she helped to make it tangible and put it into the chapters. It was amazing, the clarity that she had around my voice and bringing my voice into reality. So that's a gift that you have as an emperor. You can help take people's scattered ideas and you can kind of put them together. So that's a beautiful gift that you offer. So do you resonate with all of that?
Yeah, and actually, it's just a really big boost to my confidence. But I have been, a lifelong, I think, learner and seeker of understanding the human condition and really tapping into my own human condition and how I think about things and process information, and bringing that to my clients to understand where they are and the fears that they have and clear those blockages. But going back to what you said about putting the practical into the spiritual realm, really taking our understanding of who we are and where we are on our soul path and moving forward with inspired action to manifest the life that we desire.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a lot of organization skills as well, which I can see through your middle phalanges are quite prominent. And that's, again, like a practical realm of action. So yeah, you've got a lot of ability to kind of cut through the junk of your clients' needs, and you can kind of see, okay, this is the way we should be going. And what I love about emperors is that they can do it very quickly, because you've got the practicalness of the earth, and it's like, okay, we don't need to take forever to do this. We can actually do it pretty fast. So people with different types of archetypes, they offer other skills. Obviously, everybody has their own set of skills, but these are your skills that come through your hands. The other thing that I'm noticing is you've got a simian line, which is it's when your heart line and your head line join together. And this is seen in actually less than 3% of the population. And it brings in this intense focus because your feelings and your thoughts are literally joined together. So we often will see this on somebody who can become a very high achiever in their field. So that is considered a talent marker in the hands. Okay, so I like that. And yet you also have some sensitivity. And if I'm going to blow your hand up a little bit here. You can see this. This is a very unusual hand in that, most people will have their headline and their heart line separated out. But because you have the simian line, you have just one that is going across. So you have a heartline remnant, which is this line up here, but it's actually mimicking what's called a girdle of Venus, which is a marker of sensitivity. And I think this is where your Reiki skills are coming in, is actually through this sensitivity marker that you've got going on. And it's also oftentimes seen in somebody who can be quite empathic, and they can tap into other people's feelings pretty easily. And this also shows up a little bit over here under your Jupiter finger. So yeah, we're seeing that as well. So let's talk a little bit about your Reiki. And it's definitely, energy work is something I've been interested in for over 20 years. And I've recently cured myself through energy work. I pulled a muscle, actually hiking. I pulled like a calf muscle, and I heard like this snap, and I had this excruciating pain in my calf for like right after it happened. And then I was hobbling for a couple of days. But because of my knowledge of energy healing, I immediately went to, the energetic realm of like, I know I can fix this. And I have a personal trainer too, who works out with us twice a week, me and my husband. And he was like, okay, well, we'll take it easy on you for a few days and we'll see how you do. And he had a couple of corrective exercises to do as well. But it was so cool to see, like, okay, I'm going to test this out. How long is it going to take to get better? And I was better in about 4 days.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
It is amazing what the energy work and releasing that trapped energy and trauma can actually do, because a lot of the time you'll find that the injuries or the disease that your body manifests within itself are actually first found right in the spiritual or the emotional state, and it's just expressing itself.
exactly. And yeah, and I always look at it that way too. It's like, okay, why am I getting an injury in my leg? It's because of maybe I'm afraid to move forward. I'm afraid to walk forward into the next stage of my life. And so that was a really good, it's always good for me to self-evaluate and go, why is this even coming up in the first place? And yeah, so that was really, and it was absolutely pertinent to what was going on in my life at the moment. So,
Well, that's awesome. You know that it's funny that you bring that up, because it was a personal injury that actually turned me on to energy healing. So, going back to you pointing out that I'm probably a most practical person, an earthy person. Um, I always thought there's just physical cause and effect, and I'm like so in control and so in charge. But a few years back, I developed a frozen shoulder, and I was going through a very stressful and traumatic time at that period of my life. And it was a therapist that I knew, a regular a psychologist, I guess you would call her. She knew about my frozen shoulder, and she's recommended that I try going to a craniosacral therapist, because my physical therapy at the time was not working, and I had been resting my shoulder. I had not been going to the gym for months. I had an MRI and there showed no tears in my shoulder. And I wasn't getting any better. And so I thought I'd exhausted all of these possibilities. I rested, I went through the physical therapy, like I said, and stopped working out. And it was just getting worse, to the point where I couldn't even extend my arm outside of a window or lift a purse. And so within one session of seeing a craniosacral therapist, like a 60-minute session turned into a 90-minute session with her. But the next day, it was about 90% completely healed. I could move my arm again. It was still tight, but I had motion. I had some strength in it. And it really opened my eyes to the truth of, one, the body being able to heal itself, and two, about the stress and the traumas that we hold on to really manifesting themselves into complete physical ailments.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's just a good, this is just good for people to realize, because it's like, we don't have to stay sick. It's like, yeah, and I feel like getting sick is sort of the last result of the universe trying to really get your attention. I feel like we get little nudges, like gentle nudges, and then they start to get more persistent if we're not paying attention. And yeah, so if we keep ignoring, it's like, okay, well, eventually it is going to turn into a full-on sickness that you are then forced to pay attention. So it's all perfect. I mean, it's all for our growth, and we're not here to just hang out. We're here to grow and evolve and expand, and that's what the soul is all about. So do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And we're making a lot of progress. You and I, we're living in the United States, and a lot of these alternative practices and ideas are not widely accepted, but I think that we're finding a lot of people opening their eyes to and be more accepting because of the vast increase of diseases like cancer that's just really infiltrating the population now in the communities. In a lot of hospitals, they're actually offering on-site Reiki, which is the practice that I have, hands-on healing energy to complement other forms of therapies for even cancer patients. And so, along with the treatments, not saying not to get, necessary surgeries and chemo, et cetera, that one may opt to go with, but also adding to that regimen total body healing and stress reduction so that the body can adapt and heal with the aid of the medicine as well, right? So it's complementary, I guess, is my point in it all. And the medical community is accepting of this as well.
Yeah, well, that's definitely what we need.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Reiki. So for people who have never heard of it before, tell us about it.
Well, it's an ancient practice that was developed in Japan, and it literally translates to Rei, meaning God's wisdom, and Ki, the life force energy. And it's tapping into universal energy, if you want to call it God, if you want to call it the oneness, but all of that life force that runs through us to heal ourselves. And so I work with clients to come into a very meditative and peaceful state so that they can work through that trauma and that those ailments. And it can be physical, it could be emotional and spiritual. Most times it's all three of those. And we just channel that energy to clear the blockages and open up the chakras in order to bring in positive energy and growth.
So yeah, that sounds really interesting. And I've actually not studied Reiki. I've had it done before, but I've studied other forms of energy healing, such as I'm Reconnective Healing certified, and I've also practiced Qigong for about 20 years, which is the Chinese version. So yeah, the Reiki is the Japanese version, and then there's the Chinese versions, which I'm sure there's crossover. But I have heard that Reiki uses symbols. So I'm just curious about that because I've been getting more and more into my dreams and dream analysis, and everything is symbolic in dreams. And it can be used for healing. I do understand that. And I've also read a book about glyphs and how you can use like picture glyphs to heal. And I find the whole thing really fascinating. So what can you tell us about the symbols?
There are symbols that a Reiki practitioner or a master uses to open up their connection to the life force energy. And so it's something that we do before we work with the client. And it basically opens up our channels to become a conduit. So it's not necessarily me healing you during this practice, but it's more so being a channel for that life force energy to come into you and to freely flow and heal you at the time. And so that's where the symbols come in. And these were guided messages actually from Mr. Usui, who developed the practice.
Okay, so you just use the symbols at the beginning when you're opening yourself up as the channel. Is
Correct.
that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not any. So if you in energy, as you know, is not just in the physical, but it transcends space and time, and that's why we can do this practice at a distance and not just having to come into my studio to do the healing. But it's all intention, and what we like to do. That's the symbol of something that I would do on my end to open me up and to bring you into my direct intention set, if you will, and to channel my energy and that life force energy through me to you to promote that healing.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into with the whole Japanese culture. You know, they have a lot of ceremony and structure to the way that they live their lives. So to me, that kind of that goes along with the Japanese way of being, in that they are very purposeful and intentful, and even, you know, like their tea ceremonies are just so elaborate and so beautiful. So I kind of I love that concept of like you're creating that sacred space, and you're creating that um, that energy to flow through you and actually work through you. And you know, I think people do a lot of stuff unconsciously, you know, subconsciously or whatever. They're not thinking, like they go through their day, they're not even thinking about anything. They're just going through their programming. So I like the idea that, yeah, when you come into healing, it's like you need to be conscious. You need to redirect your focus. And that's how you actually create healing. A lot of people, you know, there's so much in the problem. I feel like this is a big issue, and it comes up over and over again with people I talk to. It's like, well, how many times a day do you think about being sick, especially if you are sick? And then how many times a day do you think about being healthy? You know, and it's interesting because just that whole shift in like your focus is going to change your result.
Absolutely. I think it's a habit, right? And a lot of times we focus on what we don't want. And what we're doing then is holding on to all of that stress, and our body tightens up in the physical realm, and then and spiritually we're calling in that, right? That's our vibration. That's what we're going to attract. We attract exactly what we say we don't want because that's all we think about. It's a very powerful truth for us to come to grips with, when we can reprogram ourselves to choose better thoughts and thoughts that are more aligned with what we truly want, because being a powerful manifester requires this. Because regardless of how you think, you will be able to manifest that, right? So if I'm thinking I don't want to lose my job, or I don't want, you know, this relationship to go bad, if you continue to think about that, you actually act in ways that promote that type of behavior and those results. But shifting that into the opportunity and the abundance that's actually available to us is a game changer. And I think now, with the pandemic, it's ever so important that we shift from all the things that we have not to the things that we could have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's so much negativity going on in the world right now. Like it's been affecting even me, who is like such a positive, happy person. And I've decided to ramp up my meditation. And now I'm meditating a minimum of one time per day, and sometimes twice a day. And it helps so much just to keep my own balance and alignment. And yeah, I highly recommend people, like, they need to take stock of what they're doing in their everyday life, and recognizing what's not healthy for them. So
Yeah, it definitely helps. I meditate as well daily. And I think, you know, because we are in our homes for the most part, right? A lot of the country's been shut down, a lot of the world. I live in California, and we are still quarantining and social distancing. And so our interactions with people are limited. But if we can get out and speak with people, or do like Zoom calls like this, or distance healing, being able to work with others that are high vibrational individuals to lift each other up is going to be key in overcoming a lot of these stressors. Because if you stay isolated, you tend to think about all the things that you don't have and that are not physically evident to you, right?
exactly.
So yeah, it's definitely time for us to get centered, remain balanced, and positive. A lot of people, I'm a mom, and so I see a lot of that negativity also in the mom groups that I belong to, as we talk about distance learning and the challenges that even our children are facing. And there are a lot of, challenges that they'll face going to a homeschool situation. Socialization, of course, is very important, especially for little people. But I think it's key for us to encourage a successful atmosphere and thinking about the ways in which we can grow and fostering new ways of learning and growing. It's not detrimental. This is not a time for more trauma. It's a time for growth, I think, and introspection and reaching out in ways that we're not used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Especially, the people that I help who are trying to find their soulmates, it's like, it's not an easy time to do that.
How does that work?
Well, it's like I always tell everybody, you must start with yourself. And in order to actually attract the type of partner you're really looking for, you need to get into that energy. You need to resonate at the soulmate level. So otherwise you're going to attract either a what I call the fatal attraction, or you're just going to stay lonely. So we don't want either of those things. So the best thing to do is to start working on the things that are right in front of you, which is you. So this is the perfect time to do that. And just get clarity, understand who you are, understand who you're most compatible with, and then what steps can you take every day to be in that alignment. So but it's harder. I would say it's harder right now to actually go out and find somebody, but there's still lots of things you can do online, and there's other ways to do it. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you say then that you must be your first soulmate?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's really important that you know yourself very well. It's like, how can you possibly know who you're most compatible with if you don't even know who you are? So I consider that to be like step one, is you need to know who you are and what's going on inside this body of yours. So it's all good though. It's, every day is a new opportunity to grow and evolve and learn. And I actually do recommend people look at alternative sources of learning, like podcasts and, YouTube and, people's video channels and things like that, because, there are different voices out there, and like yours and mine, which are more focused on solutions and the positive spiritual aspect, I think, needs to be heard just as much as anything else. So I'm grateful that you're out there doing your great work.
Absolutely. And thank you too for doing it as well. I mean, you're doing it on a really large scale, writing your books and doing this broadcast and speaking in your virtual seminars and panels. It's helping to get the word out there versus, just, I know there's different stages, right, of all healers. When you heal yourself and you learn and you work maybe one-on-one, and you're more of in a learning and a seeking position, and then taking all of that stuff that you've learned and you're continuing to learn and sharing that with others.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I guess the way I want to wrap up the show is, maybe who would you want to get a Reiki set? Like, what's the type of person you would want to have a Reiki session with? And is there a particular problem that they're going to have, or is it more broad, or just who would you speak to on that?
Well, my clients run the gamut. Everyone who wants to kind of maintain and be consistent in their stress levels, promote better sleep habits, and just mitigate any of the fears that they may have on a daily basis. And then I've also have clients that are literally doctors and cancer patients who have sought help and remedies through Western medicine, but are also seeking spiritual release and emotional healing. And it's something basically that anybody can benefit from, and everyone could benefit from. So especially now with
Mhm.
so much going on, so many unknowns, stress levels are high. And I would just encourage everybody who's going through that turbulent time to seek energy healing if that's something that they're called to do, because it can really open up a lot of those blocks and allow you to see and operate from a space of abundance and love, to identify the opportunities that we all have to us, because it is a trying time, and there's going to be people who really grow through it. And you will look back on this a year, 2 years out, and we can say there was a lot going on, and I was fearful, but look at how beautiful my life has turned out because of the new opportunities that were presented to me.
Yes, I love that. Opportunities come through challenges. So yeah, everybody could benefit from that perspective.
Yeah.
So how do people reach you?
You can reach me on my website, alohaascension.com, or you can email me, Christina at alohaascension.com. And, let's begin the conversation. I also, I have blogs on my website as well that, you can feel free to peruse. And I just go through, different things that I'm going through in my life, and sharing different strategies that we can use to heal. It's overall, balance and energy. So yeah, please reach out. Definitely willing to talk and be on that journey with you.
All right, terrific. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you, listeners. As always, we love you. And remember that life has more meaning when it's shared. So get out there and share your life and your love with others. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Love in Your Hands. Please rate, review, and subscribe to show your support. Have a question for Cynthia? Just post a comment. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to find soulmate love fast. Start your free Soul Connection membership today, upload your hand photo, discover your relationship archetype, and start finding soulmate matches. Just go to loveinyourhands.com to get started.